Alright, welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to talk more about 4 shocking truths about taking good photos. If you want to learn how to take good photos, then these 4 truths are very important for you to know before you start taking pictures. So let's dive in more to learn more. So I want to share with you 4 shocking truths, and you'll be very surprised after I put this. Most people that teach about photography don't talk about this much, and I'm kind of shocked as I see all the renowned photographers. They always talk about stories and things, but it all depends. It comes down to the first thing, which is what is your purpose of taking the photo for. Alright, that's something that you need to consider when you actually take your photo. Alright, and also good photo are actually determined by actually not just the style, but also your influence that you have around you. Why I say that? Because we have people who actually take very lousy photos, but people still say their photos are very nice just because they are very famous people. So your influence does affect the style and judgment of how good your photos really are. And I've seen many cases of people just using the iPhone taking photos, and they've been commented as very good photos just because they had big influence around them. Thirdly, it's a skill that you have, the skill that you learn throughout your experience of taking photos, how you position your photo taking, how you manage your light, how you manage your aperture, how you manage the person or the portrait photo that you're trying to take matters in taking good photos. And lastly is the equipment that you use, alright, for whatever purpose that you are focusing on. Alright, so these are the 4 things, and we're going to learn about these 4 things in this section of this video. Alright, so purpose. Alright, knowing your purpose of use for the photo and audience will actually determine what style and equipment you will need. Alright, so let me give you some example. Let's say, for example, if you are doing taking photos for a paid client, means someone pay you money for photos, you definitely don't want to give them lousy quality photos. Alright, and also you must have certain skill sets in order to take photos for clients. Means you make sure that your photos are not blur. Alright, make sure your photos, if it's for printing, make sure it's of high quality, it's sharp. Alright, so that when it's printed, they will not see the noise on the photos. So it depends on that. If your purpose is that, alright, then you need make sure you have good quality and also skill to take good photos. Alright, but if your purpose is just to post on Facebook, technically you don't even need to buy a camera. Your handphone is actually more than enough, because all you need is creativity and influence to take good photos for your own needs. Alright, and this is something I'm very shocked that not many photographer teachers talk about, but this is something very important to know when it comes to taking good photos. A different purpose has different requirements that you need, right? Let's say for travel. Alright, the emphasis, if you're doing for travel photo, your focus will be more on the weight of your camera, and the size of your camera matters. If you notice, most of the YouTubers online who always brag about their big cameras, expensive cameras, but when they travel, they use small cameras, right? So it depends on your purpose. If you're doing a travel blog, you don't want to buy a big camera. You can even start with just using a handphone. That's totally fine as well. Alright, you don't really necessarily need to have a DSLR or mirrorless camera. It comes down to the purpose of what you're putting it for. Alright, so influence will actually determine the popularity of your photo and style. I have seen many people take very good pictures, but nobody says their pictures are nice, right? Because nobody has seen them. Alright, so your influence will determine also a factor of whether your photos are judged to be good or bad. And honestly speaking, I don't really like especially photo competitions where there are judges, and normally they judge based on the person's influence rather than the picture itself. Alright, so yeah, so I don't really buy that. And if you see someone famous who's taking photos, they tend to win the competition, and it's somehow an unfair advantage to people who are very new. Alright, so to give you one example, maybe some of the photos here you see them before. I'm sure the one on the left over here, you have seen this photo before, and just because that's a photo from the very popular magazine for Geographic channel, alright, and it's taken by someone famous. The other two, maybe you have not seen them before, but they're equally very good photos. So let me show you the illustration. Is that the name of the photographers are as so. So this is taken by Steve, and it's a well-known photographer, and these two photos are also taken very nice, but there's no name to them. You can see their alias, normal photographers just like you and me, who's not so well known, but they take very nice photos as well, right? So you can see that the thing is that how do you determine if a photo is good? It all comes down to how much influence you have, and that will determine also the acceptance of the style of photography that you take that people see around the world. Skew, definitely skew is a very important factor, and you will look at later on different settings of aperture, ISO, alright, and shutter speed. Alright, your experience and story actually of telling and creativeness actually determines if a picture is good or bad. Alright, so it's not just composition, but also how you actually take the photo, using what lighting, and how you pose the person does matter in getting good pictures for you as well. And lastly, alright, is actually equipment. But strangely, most people on YouTube keep on talking about how important equipment is. Actually, equipment is not the most important thing when it comes to taking photos. Any simple, cheap DSLR is actually good, more than good enough to actually take good pictures. You don't need a very expensive camera, alright, to take good pictures. It's just a extra benefit that you become sharper, and you shouldn't blame the equipment for taking bad pictures. Alright, so technical know-how and equipment is the least most important thing, but it does help improve on the quality of the image. Alright, so normally the better the camera in terms of specs, in terms of the sensor size, does matter only for the quality of the image. That's why most of the wedding photographers normally will buy a DSLR and not use a compact camera, because they require certain amount of quality to deliver to the customer and cannot just use a small camera. And they need to make sure the photo taken can be printed, so that's the reason why they need a bigger sensor camera, which we'll talk more in another video.